Answer one.
All right,
No.
here's, you do your test corrections on a white sheet of paper. I'm gonna go over everything. If you come for the redo, you bring the test corrections. I am gonna collect this paper, so, the paper and the scan, so, you know, write down your test corrections on a piece of paper if you're planning on doing the redo. I am videotaping this, because kids are not here, but I'll put it online. So like, if you want to look at it,
What'd you just say? Like, is there a sign up for the test?
it's coming up.
Oh, okay.
Okay? All right. Sorry. You didn't think the silliest knew the difference between A and B?
No, I said the AM was on the other side. I thought it was two. I thought it was two.
You were just trying to help.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. All right, I've got one on the A, one on the B. They're the same. Assume that the economy is at equilibrium. If aggregate demand increases, all right, when you see nominal interest, this is the graph. All right, this is the nominal interest graph. All right, now, the only thing that shifts MS is ROAS. Reserve requirement, open market operation, and discount rate. None of that's in this problem. But what happened in this problem is AD shifted from A to B, price levels went up. The shifter of this graph is, do I need more money in my pocket? Yes, I do, because price levels went up. So demand shifts right, interest rates go up. What's the relationship between interest rates and bonds? Inverse. So it's gonna be B as in broccoli. Everyone's on it?
Can
I'm
we,
not on
they
it.
skipped all of us.
Yeah.
The whole class?
Yeah, they did like a big blue instead of a.
Okay, would I ever forget you?
I don't think so.
No.
They did.
I'll remember you the rest of my life. All right, 2 and 31. 2 and 31. All right, when I see government spending, I think of this graph and loanable funds. All right, so if government spending with no charge in taxes, well, demand in loanable funds is government spending. I shift it right, interest rates went up. So the answer is D as in dogwood, interest rates go up. Is everyone good on this? Everyone sign? How many people is it?
I didn't really think this.
All right. I've got now 3 and 25. 3 and 25. If businesses become optimistic about the profitability of investment, if businesses become optimistic about the profitability of investments in an economy, which of the all right, they're saying loanable funds. So we're going to the loanable funds graph. Demand is government spending and investments. If they're optimistic, they're going to invest more. Demand right, higher interest rates. So 3 and 25 is D as in dogwood, the real interest rates will increase. Give them a little time as people have to. Right. 4 and 14. Same up. 4 and 14. All right, this is nominal equals real plus inflation. Sam pays monthly on a 5-year fix. So if it's fixed, it means nominal is not changing. So if nominal is steady and real and inflation increases, real has to go down. And like, think of it like this: if nominal is 8, real's 3, inflation is 5. If inflation goes to 7, real has to go to 1. It has to go down. So therefore, it's C as in Caroline.
Can you say that again?
Yeah. If nominal is fixed, so it's not changing. If one of these increases, the other has to decrease, right, to equal nominal?
Yes,
If the expected inflation rate decreased.
Then
would be
real
the
has to
opposite.
increase.
That it would be the opposite.
Yeah. Okay. All right, 5 and 24. 5 and 24.
Second.
Now. The commercial bank is facing if the reserve requirement is 12% and the bank does not sell any of its securities, the maximum amount of additional lending this bank. All right, so my required reserve is 12%. I have 100,000 in demand deposits. I take 100,000 times 12, that means I have to keep 12,000 in demand deposits. I have 15 in total reserves, minus the 12 in demand deposits gives me the excess of 3,000. And that is C as in Caroline. Six and 30. 6 and 30. Country H, its current domestic output is lower, so I've got a recessionary gap. Assume the central bank now decreases its administrative rate. Ryan, if interest rate goes down, what happens to business investment?
Is that increase?
If business investment increases, what happens to aggregate demand?
That shift, right?
Okay, so I'm going from A to B. Now, we have to know real GDP, income, and employment are all on that axis. So when I go real A to B, real GDP increases, income increases, and employment increases. If employment increases, unemployment decreases. So E as an element, cyclical unemployment will decrease, real income will increase. Seven and 18. 7 and 18. Assume the reserve requirement is 10%. Malvar deposits $1 million in cash into a checking account. The deposit will initially increase excess reserves at first bank. All right, $1 million, it's a deposit. I gotta take 10% down. $1 million, 10%, so I got 100,000 required reserves. What's my excess? $1 million minus 100,000, so it's 900,000. So, my excess is B as in broccoli, 900,000. Eight and 10. 8 and 10. During a mild recession, if policymakers want to reduce unemployment by increasing investment. All right, how do I increase investment? 8 and 10. Someone, how do you increase investment? What?
Lower interest rate.
Lower interest rates. So, if they want to increase investments, E as an element, decrease in administered interest rates. Right? There's a lot of investment questions on this. Hudson, you just said to decrease interest rates to increase investment, right?
Yeah.
Alright, all of the following will shift investment demand curve to the right, except, so what should I be looking for as the except? If lowering interest rates shifts AD to the right,
Yeah.
what's gonna shift AD to the left?
Increase in interest rate.
Yeah. And that would be C as in Caroline. Because if interest rates increase, investment is down, demand left. Yeah. 10 and 12. 10 and 12. Assuming a banking system with limited reserves. Assuming a banking system with limited reserves. When okay, if it's a limited reserve bank, it's this way. All right? All right. So assuming a banking system with limited reserves, when the central bank buys government securities, buy boom, which of the following will decrease in the short run? So interest rates, money supply is going to increase, interest rates down, A as an alpha. Now, why are interest rates down besides I say buy boom? If Perfect Bradley's the bank and I'm the Fed, he gives me bonds, what do I give him? Money. So the money supply increases, okay? All right. All right. Which of the following is true of opportunity cost? All right, so if I have $10 in my pocket and there's no interest, how much am I losing by putting the money in, not putting the money in the bank?
Interest rate.
If the interest rate is zero,
Inflation.
I'm losing nothing though, right? How about if the interest rate is 10%? Then I'm losing $1. So if interest rates go up, the opportunity cost increases.
What number is this for B?
That's a good question. A real good question.
13.
And excellent. 13. So it's E as an L. 12 and 28. 12 and 28. All right. By the way, if you were on the review on the night before, I did this on the review. For which of the following sets of unemployment and inflation will the central bank be most reluctant? Meaning they don't want to do. All right, so they don't want to lower administered interest rates when there's high inflation because AD shifts right and price levels go up. There's two scenarios on the next page with high inflation, C and E. The reason they're more reluctant to do it with E is you've got low unemployment. At C, at least if you shift AD right, you're lowering some of that high unemployment. So the answer ends up being E as an L.
Wait, say that again, why unemployment rate, they want it to be lower? Or they don't want it to be lower?
They do, at least, they say which is the worst one of these
Yeah,
to use it.
why don't they do C? Why don't they want?
Because, no, they do want to do C.
Yeah, why don't they want, why don't they want the unemployment rate to be lower?
And E? This is the one they
Yeah,
least
why
want to do.
Why don't they want the unemployment rate to be 5%?
Because, no, because they rather use it at C because it's 10%. It's comparing these.
I know, but why?
Because unemployment is higher at C, so they rather reduce that, where at E, it's kind of okay.
It's not saying like what situation they want to be in, it's saying like which of these situations is like.
I know, why is it better to be at 10%?
Because it doesn't do.
No,
No, it's not saying it's better to be at 10%, it's saying that like you're gonna use that if you're at 10% because the situation's more dire. And
It's
that's what.
worse at 10%, and that's why you're using it. The question is saying,
Which scenario would they use the policy?
Okay, Hudson, I think like Mr. Syed said, it's saying which one of these would you not use this policy?
Yeah.
So if you're not gonna use it for E. Because,
If you lower the interest rates, you're gonna get even a higher inflation, so there's gonna be more money.
Oh, yeah.
you don't understand. No.
I do that, like you said. I got the inflation rate.
Alright.
I got the-
Alright, so you want to then, between C and E, you want to use it on the one that has the highest unemployment. Because AD shifts right will lower unemployment. 13 and 15. 13 and 15. If the central bank decreases administered interest rates. All right, what's the relationship with the value of bonds and interest rates? So it's A as an alpha for 13 and 15 on the bid. Fourteen and 3. Now, this is not asking you about the value of the bonds. This is asking you if the interest rate on the bonds decrease. All interest rates always go in the same direction. So if the interest rate on the bonds decrease, then I gotta look for an answer that's somehow decreases another interest rate. And that's why A as an alpha decreased its administered interest rate.
Which one is that?
14 and 3. 14 and 3. Yeah. All right, 15 and 16. Currently at full employment, which of the following would most likely cause the United States to fall into a recession? Anthony, which way does aggregate demand shift to get us into a recession? All right, so I gotta look at what's gonna shift AD left. E as an element, an increase in administrative interest rates, investment down, AD left.
Which one is this?
That was 15 and 16. The next one is 16 and 17. All right, fiat money has no intrinsic value. All right, so C is the answer. Now, on the redo, I might think they'll go commodity money, which does have intrinsic value. Commodity money being like gold, cigarettes, things like that.
Just, I'm still on 16 for a second.
Yeah.
The increase in interest rates, that shit aggregate supply or aggregate demand?
Everything. Course, investment down, AD left. Seventeen and 8. 17 and 8. That's the nominal equals real plus inflation equation. So they give you the nominal is 10, inflation is 5, real has to be 5 if you're plugging them in. So there's 3 of those, nominal equals real plus inflation. I think if you know the formula, you're gonna get them right. 18 and 19, 18 and 19. Roy, we're saying a lot, like interest rates down, investment up, or interest rate up, investment down. What do we mean by investment?
Like buying capital, like buying factories, the machinery.
Okay, good, perfect. Perfect answer. So if the Federal Reserve lowers its administrative interest rate, we know investment's gonna go up. Roy just told us investment is like factories and equipment, so 18 and 19 is D as in dogwood. I think people forgot what investment was. A lot of people got that one. Next one is 19 and 20. 19 and 20. Assume the reserve requirement is 20%, but banks voluntarily keep some excess. On 1 million increase in new reserves. Okay. So I got 1 million in new reserves. If I'm loaning it all out, I times it by the multiplier of 5, that's 5 million. However, the problem says they do not loan out all the excess. So I'm gonna hold back some of this million, so the answer has to be less than 5 million. So it's B as in broccoli. That was 19 and 20. 19 and 20. Twenty and 21. 20 and 21. An increase in government spending. All right, I'm thinking SRASAD or loanable funds. An increase in government spending will affect the demand for money. All right, and nominal interest. Now I'm thinking here, nominal interest. All right, so an increase in government spending from A to B, what happened to price levels? They increase. Price levels increase. I need more money in my pocket. Demand for money increases, and so does interest rate. So it's AA. All right, there were two very similar ones like that. '21 and 22. Assume a country's banking system has limited reserves. Suppose the central bank buys 400 billion worth. All right, when the Fed buys or sells bonds, do we take anything out for reserve requirement? No. So 400 billion, 0.2, I got 1 over 0.2 is 5, 400 times 5 is 2,000 billion. Why do people get that one wrong? Did you forget? Did you take out reserve requirement? Bonds, it's the Fed, no reserve requirement.
What was this for B 22?
22. Now we got 22 and 23. Okay, ample reserves. Like the only actions they can take are administrative interest or interest on reserve. Administrative interest or interest on reserves. So if the banking system has ample reserves, which of the following actions by the central bank would cause a decrease? All right, if we want to decrease unemployment, Nico, which way does AD have to shift? Right, all right, so if AD, to get AD to shift right, Nico, which way do we want interest rates to go? Up or down?
Down.
Down, so D as a dogwood, a decrease in the interest on reserves. The only one that had interest rates going down.
And that probably they can only shift interest rates, you said, and
Yeah, because it's ample,
ample.
ample's only interest rates. And even Hudson, all the other ones would have shifted AD left,
Okay,
huh?
that makes sense.
23 and 4. 23 and 4. Which of the following is a monetary policy that could be used to counteract a recession? Connor, if we're counteract a recession, which way do we want AD to shift?
Right.
Okay, which one of those in 23 or 4 shifts AD right?
Lowering the interest rate?
Yeah, A as an apple. Good job. Okay. Now you got that one wrong on the actual test, right?
Yeah.
But you got the hang of it now, right? Okay, good. 26 and 24. 26 and 24. Assume a country has limited reserves. That's this graph. I don't know if we're gonna have to use it. If the central bank buys, boom, money supply is gonna increase. There it is. So 26 and 24 is A, money supply is gonna increase. Okay, and it's like me and Bradley did before. If I'm the Fed and Bradley's a bank and he sells me bonds, I'm giving him money, so the money supply increases. If I'm selling bonds, sell some. 25 and 7. It's another one of these nominal equals real plus inflation. 25 and 7. All right, so the nominal, we don't know. Inflation is 5, and the highest he's willing to pay is real interest of 3. So the highest nominal could be is 8. 5 plus 3 is the highest. So that is C as in Caroline, 8. You have a question?
No, I just didn't understand that question. I like to really understand.
Are you good now, though? Okay. Well, we'll get it right Monday. Maybe I'll put the same question on just for you. All right. A bank has 800 million in demand deposit, 100 million in reserves.
What number?
So 28 and, or rather 26 and 5. 26 and 5. A bank has 800 million in demand deposits and 100 million in reserves. If the reserve requirement is 10%, the bank's excess reserves equal. All right, so I got 800 million in deposits, 100 million in reserves. I got to keep 10% of my demand deposits in required. So 800 times 0.1, that's 80 million in required. I have 100 in reserves, minus the 80 gives me 20 in excess. Right, that was one a lot of people got wrong. You just take the total. I think people got confused and they took the 80 away from 800. Right? That's 26. 27 is 29. 27 is 29. All right, when they say money supply, raw, I'm thinking raw. That's the only thing that changes money supply. Reserve requirement, open market operations, discount rate. Where am I? I'm at E as in Ellen, open market operations. That was 27 is 29. Twenty-eight and 9. 28 and 9. If the central, it's a tough one. If the central bank raises the required ratio in a banking system with limited reserves, the money multiplier. So I raised the reserve requirement with these numbers to see what would happen. So if the reserve requirement is 0.2, the money multiplier is 5. The reserve requirement is 5, the money multiplier is 2. So when the reserve requirement went from 0.2 to 0.5, the multiplier decreased. So I know the money multiplier is going to decrease, leaves me D and E. Now, if the reserve requirement goes up, the banks could, they only have less money to lend out. Therefore, money supply decreases, E as in Ellen. Twenty-nine and two. 29 and 2. All right. The way banks create money is by loaning money out. So I would say on the redo, there's gonna be a question like, how do the banks create money? And it might be through loans, it might be fractional banking, but fractional banking system means you hold some money, but you lend out the rest. So when you lend out the money, that's how banks create money, B as in broccoli. $30 and $6. 30 and 6. Okay. Assume that the required reserve ratio is 10%. Banks keep no excess. All right, it's a deposit. So $100 deposit, the reserve requirement is 10%. I gotta save $10. I wanna see my excess, 100 minus 10 gives me 90. They're asking how much the money supply can increase by the maximum. I take the excess times the money multiplier, which is 10. 90 times 10 is 900. And then last but not least, 31 and 27. 31 and 27. Okay. And that's very similar to the one we just had. It's a deposit. Okay, it's $1,000 deposit. You got to take out 0.25. So I got to take out 250. That gives me excess of 750. They want to see the maximum in the system. So I'm going to do 1 over 0.25 gives me the multiplier of 4. 750 times 4 is 3,000. That was a lot, Hudson. Did it help you at all?
He's not gonna.
Do you know now?